Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick, and in this video we're going to be comparing the Nike Alphafly NEXT 1 and the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. So even though the Alphafly NEXT 1 is a slightly older carbon shoe, it's still fair to say that these are two of the best options on the market for racing, and it's worth comparing them to see if it's maybe worth trying to pick up a bargain on the old Alphafly rather than opting for the new Saucony. In terms of the price, on RRP, the Alphafly is £270 in the UK or $275 in the US, but usually available in sales for less. The Endorphin Pro 3 is £210 in the UK or $225 in the US. The Pro 3 has an 8mm drop, whereas the Alphafly 1 has a 4mm drop. And when it comes to weight, the Alphafly is 234 grams or 8.3 ounces in a UK 9, whereas the Endorphin Pro is lighter, it's 217 grams or 7.7 ounces. On the design of the shoe, you've got an atom knit upper on the Alphafly over a midsole made out of ZoomX foam, Nike's PEBA-based foam, very soft, very springy, with some Air Zoom pods in the midsole and a full-length carbon plate running the length of the midsole. Then on the outsole, you've got pretty good coverage rubber on the forefoot there, and then two strips at the back. That is kind of the classic Nike design, but it really is quite a thick layer on the front there to improve durability and protect those AirPods a little bit. The Endorphin Pro 3 has a very lightweight mesh upper itself, and then it's got Power Run PB foam in the midsole. This is Saucony's PEBA-based foam, another very good foam here. It's also got a full-length carbon plate running through the foam and Saucony's speed roll geometry designed to create a nice rolling rocker effect on the run. Outsole, you've got decent rubber coverage all over the forefoot there, and then fairly good sections at the back as well, with a midsole cutout to reduce the weight of the shoe a little bit. Alright, I've got Tom here with me now, and he's going to talk about the fit of these two shoes. Tom, do these shoes fit you?
These two shoes do fit me. I'll start with the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 because that fits perfectly, true to size. I've not had any issues with it at all, and I actually ran Chicago Marathon wearing a new pair without sort of wearing it in, and it was perfect. I've not had any issues since testing the Pro 3. The Alphafly 1 is an interesting shoe because I did have some pretty major issues with it first few times I wore it, based on that arch problem. The raised arch in the Alphafly ones was a bit uncomfortable for me, and in comparison to the Endorphin Pro 3, I think it is a little bit less of a forgiving shoe. It feels a bit tighter, but I would go true to size in it.
I am true to size in both of these shoes. The Alphafly, you've got to be a bit careful. I have tried half size down it as well, and it seems roomy enough. Then you start running it, your toe starts bumping into this little bit of raised plastic on the front there. So that's the thing to look out for with the Alphafly. So yeah, I'm true to size in both shoes, but yeah, if you're tight in the Alphafly, look out for bumping your big toe into that rubber. Onto the run test. Now, Tom, we've both run marathons in both of these shoes. You've PB'd in both of these shoes. You must like these shoes.
I like these shoes very much. Yes. But they are very different shoes, and I think when I was choosing the shoe that I was going to run Chicago in, it was quite a difficult choice between these shoes. The Alphafly 1, I ran Bilbao in March with you, and I got my PB 312 PB in this shoe, and I'd never ran further than 10k in the Alphafly up until that point. Not in an actual race. I'd done a half marathon in the Alphafly before then, I was a bit worried when I started wearing it because of that arch issue. It didn't feel quite right for me, and up till about 5k in the marathon, I just didn't feel it was very comfortable. However, once that feeling disappeared, it is an incredibly enjoyable shoe to run long distance in. It just feels so cushioned and nice, but you get that pop as well, which you get in the Vaporfly, just a little bit more subtle. So it feels like a very active shoe for me. Like, it really is helping you move forward. It's really giving you a nice boost of energy with every step, and it just feels so bouncy when you're wearing it. I think it's a fantastic shoe for that, and I was very close to choosing the Alphafly 1 to run Chicago in because of the experience I had in my previous races in the Alphafly 1. Now, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 is a very different shoe. Unlike the Alphafly, I don't think it has a sort of really noticeable bounce. It doesn't feel like it's propelling you forward with every step. It does feel like it's got a nice bit of energy in it, but it feels a lot more natural to me when you're running in it. And when I've been training it, I've done 4 of my 5 PBs over the last few months in the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, and I don't know, it just feels like it's doing a lot, but without really being noticeable. It just feels very natural, very comfortable, but I can just get such a lovely consistent pace in this shoe. It just feels so great for running distance.
Yeah, I agree. They do feel really different. I really like both of these shoes as well. The Alphafly does feel much more, like you say, active and a bit intrusive, but in a way I like. It's very bouncy. It's really, you really pop off the forefoot there with those Air Zoom pods. And even though this has got a lower drop than the Endorphin Pro 3, I don't really feel that on the run. They both feel like a similar drop to me, and it does feel like it's really propelling you forward, whereas Endorphin Pro is smoother. Like, it is softer and bouncier than previous editions, but it's still, for me, the defining characteristic of the Endorphin line in general is how smooth that speed roll technology is and the way you roll through with each stride. I found it feels like almost a bit lighter and more nimble on the foot than the Alphafly, even though I think I'd rate them pretty similarly for racing short distance events. This feels like it's nimble because it is lighter and less noticeable, whereas the Alphafly feels like you've got to get straight into cruising mode no matter what pace you're running at, really. The only thing I would say about the Endorphin Pro 3 is that I think the feel of the shoe changes quite a lot over time in comparison to the Alphafly. The Alphafly, my old version's got probably 300k on it. It feels pretty similar to this very new shoe. Endorphin Pro 3, I think, softens up quite a lot. It becomes a bit mushy to me over time. And then when I put a new one on, when I ran London in the Endorphin Pro 3 at an easy pace, it felt much firmer and actually better for running hard in. I'd almost like say, actually after about 200k, maybe I'd want to race in a new version of this shoe because it's softened up a bit. And I was considering both of these shoes for Berlin, my marathon in Berlin this year, and actually ended up rejecting both on the basis of that they were both feeling a bit too soft to me at the time. I ended up using the Vapefly because I needed a slightly firmer feeling. My legs were not appreciating soft shoes at the time. I'm back probably selecting between these for Valencia now if I do that hard, but haven't actually managed to really run yet for about 3 weeks thanks to various mishaps and illnesses. But yeah, do you think the Endorphin Pro 3 has changed? Because you've used a new version recently as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that. So I did 4 or 5 races before Chicago Marathon in it, as well as a fair bit of training, and I didn't feel like anything had changed in it. By the time we ran Pleshy Half together, that was the last race I did in my first pair of Endorphin Pro 3s. And by the time we ran that race, I hadn't noticed any difference in it. I thought it was still feeling pretty fine. But for Chicago, like you in London, I've got a new pair of Endorphin Pro 3s, which I used for the race. And as soon as I put it on, it instantly felt a lot harder to me than... I mean, it's not a hard shoe. Even when you put it on for the first time, you would never class it as hard. But it did feel different to me when I put the fresh pair on for the first time. And I was a bit worried, actually, when I put them on, because I took them out to Chicago and I did a little 5K just before the marathon. And because it felt different, I was thinking, oh no, have I made a mistake? Do I need to wear these in a bit? But over the course of that marathon, they were fine. I didn't even think about the firmness of it. But there is a distinct difference, I think, over time, where even within maybe about 140k that I did in the previous one, it definitely had softened up in comparison to the new one for me.
Yeah, and I don't think it affects performance. I think it's a different feel to the shoe. So actually, I preferred it as the firmer version of the shoe. Even though these are very small differences we're talking about here, but yeah, I think that's definitely. I think the other difference I think we'll have between the shoes is I'll be a lot happier doing a lot of training in Endorphin Pro 3. It's a more stable and natural shoe, like you say, and the Alphafly is one that I really would pull on mainly just for the odd hard session in a race, whereas the Pro 3, I said before, I think is the best daily trainer on the planet if you can afford to just use a carbon plate shoe for everything. And running London the week after Berlin, doing it at a more relaxed pace, it's like the perfect carbon shoe for that, in my opinion. Just rolled for it really nicely. So it is a less kind of intense shoe to pull on. It's much more relaxing while still being very quick. Obviously, you can do everything in it, but it feels like a shoe that's probably going to be more forgiving if you have a really bad day in your marathon as well. Okay, on to the verdicts. It's a bit of a tough one, obviously. On RRP, the Alphafly 1 is a lot more expensive, but actually it's generally in sales now, and it's not that easy to get hold of in some ways because it is an older shoe, but you can certainly still find it. And I think if you ask, these are 2 of the shoes I would be considering if I was looking for the best carbon shoe on the market right now. So, Tom, you're in that position sometimes. Which one would you go for if you're picking between the 2 of these 2?
It's so difficult at the moment for me because I have this question in the back of my mind. I got a 255 in Chicago, Just going to keep mentioning that. And it's a question in the back of my mind is, if I'd have worn the Alphafly, what would I have got? I just don't know. I mean, I definitely think for me, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 is the best all-round race shoe out at the moment, because I think anybody can use it and enjoy it. I think the Alphafly, even I running the Alphafly, and I think sometimes it just doesn't feel right because it is so intrusive to your running style. And sometimes I did a couple of 10Ks in this when I first got it, and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel wrong. It didn't feel like I had an awful shoe on, but you can feel it all the time, I think, and I don't like that as much as the Pro 3. I think the Pro 3 it's just lovely to wear. And if anybody asks me, you know, with unlimited money, what shoe do I buy for a race, and I don't know much about them, I'd say Pro 3.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's certainly a fair case to make. I think of the two, I'd probably lean towards the Alphafly as a preferred pick if I was just going to have one to race in. But I certainly wouldn't be unhappy to race in the Endorphin Pro 3. So, and I do agree with you. It's the more accessible shoe. I think it will work for more people. A lot of people just have not got on with the Alphafly at all. Actually, I bought this pair to use in Berlin, and then I did a couple of runs in them, and they were niggling my calf, and I wasn't feeling quite right. I can feel how good this is, but it's just not working for me right now. Even though it's a shoe I've run, what was a marathon PB at the time of 2:29 in it. And now went back, went to a different shoe in the end, just because it sometimes doesn't suit me. It doesn't feel quite right, and I'm very lucky. I've got lots of shoes to pick between. But yeah, so if you're buying just one, no real knowledge about someone, I think the Endorphin Pro 3 is the more accessible and easy option to suggest. But I do still think the Alphafly is a bit quicker, and it would be my racing shoe of choice from the two. So that's it. That's our comparison of the Alphafly 1 and the Endorphin Pro 3. Let us know in the comments which you'd be going for, and if you can see any particularly good deals on the Alphafly at the moment, please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.